Coming up next.
It was the late 90s. I was finishing up college and I wanted to know how laws worked. So I signed up for the New York State Assembly internship program. And I showed up and I said, here's my neuropsychological evaluation. I have a first grade reading and writing level. And the program director freaked out because there's no way this was going to work. Goes up to the speaker's office of the New York State Assembly. They said, you're not getting rid of this kid. You're going to find a way to make this work for him. We're not getting rid of him because he's dyslexic. So they get a committee together and they do something extraordinary. They pull me out of the legislative office building, march me over to the Capitol, put me in the majority leader's program and council's office, which runs the assembly day to day. And I saw why they did it. There were 3 administrative assistants that could help with my horrendous writing, but they have no idea what to do with an undergrad. So they treat me like a graduate student, which is a real staff position. Worked out fantastic. For the academic portion, I gave a hours-long Q&A session instead of a big paper, which was standard accommodation for me. And then they wrap it all up, said, we recommend 15 credits of A-, and they send it back to the State University of New York Center at Buffalo's Political Science Department. Now, remember, this is the state government itself deciding these extraordinary accommodations. The Political Science Department looked at it and said, we don't like these accommodations, so we're lowering your grade. Guess what they lowered it to?
Oh, C-?
Nope, they flunked me.
Welcome to Faith Over Addiction podcast, where the chains of fixing and striving are broken and joy is rediscovered in Christ. You are here because you know there's more for you, a life beyond addiction's chaos, rooted in God's peace and promises. This is the place where Christian women like you learn to release the weight of fixing and striving and instead lean into God's strength to create a home filled with love, grace, and hope. She is clothed with strength and dignity. Proverbs 31:25. That's you. You may not feel like it yet, but you are stronger than you know. And God has so much more for you than carrying someone else's addiction. Here, we'll uncover how to set healthy boundaries with love and a little humor. Find resilience and grace in the messy moments of life. Celebrate small victories and embrace joy like never before. Lean into God's promises for restoration and strength because He's not done with your story or your loved ones. This is your invitation to rise up, embrace your worth in God's kingdom, and take back what's been stolen by addiction, your peace, your joy, your future. Your faith is the foundation and your boundaries are the bridge, and God's truth is your guide. I'm Tanya Joya, your host and fellow traveler on this journey through the chaos of addiction. I'm here to cheer you on, equip you with tools that work, and share the truth that's changed my life. The joy of the Lord is your strength. Nehemiah 8:10. Together, we'll uncover how to create safe, loving space for healing, starting with your own heart and home. By setting boundaries, trusting God's plan, and embracing His truth, you can reclaim your joy, your peace, and your family's future. Then you will be able to stand firm for your family and legacy as a kingdom daughter, a woman who can laugh at the days to come, knowing her identity is secure in Christ. So grab a cup of coffee or tea and get comfortable. Let's walk this journey together. We're about to take back what's been stolen, create a safe, healing space for you and your family, and rediscover the joy God has waiting for you. Welcome to the Faith Over Addiction podcast. I'm your host, Tanya Joya, and I have a true gift for us today. I have Russell Van Brocklen, who is guiding parents from guesswork to game plan around dyslexia. And I don't think I've mentioned this to the audience, at least not lately. I am a diagnosed dyslexic, but I didn't get diagnosed till college. And then life changed for me. So Russell is here to help you, especially home parents, especially homeschooling parents, especially parents who are really struggling with a child who wants to do well, but man, words are falling off the page or they're reversing things. Or in my case, I leave things out and I couldn't tell you that I left them out. I think I'm communicating. So, Russell, tell us how you got started in this work.
This is the last thing in the world I was supposed to do. It was the late 90s. I was finishing up college and I wanted to know how laws worked. So I signed up for the New York State Assembly internship program. And I showed up and I said, here's my neuropsychological evaluation. I have a first grade reading and writing level. And the program director freaked out because there's no way this was going to work. Goes up to the speaker's office of the New York State Assembly. They said, you're not getting rid of this kid. You're going to find a way to make this work for him. We're not getting rid of him because he's dyslexic. So they get a committee together and they do something extraordinary. They pull me out of the legislative office building, march me over to the Capitol, put me in the majority leader's program and council's office, which runs the assembly day to day. And I saw why they did it. There were 3 administrative assistants that could help with my horrendous writing, but they have no idea what to do with an undergrad. So they treat me like a graduate student, which is a real staff position. Worked out fantastic for the academic portion. I gave a hours long Q&A session instead of a big paper, which was standard accommodation for me. And then they wrap it all up, said, we recommend 15 credits of A minus, and they send it back to the State University of New York Center at Buffalo's political science department. Now, remember, this is the state government itself deciding these extraordinary accommodations. The political science department looked at it and said, we don't like these accommodations, so we're lowering your grade. Guess what they lowered it to?
Oh, C minus?
Nope, they flunked me.
Ah.
15 credits of F. Destroyed my GPA. I said, I'm done with this discrimination. I went to my professors and I said, where can I be forced to learn to read and write in grad school? They said, well, if you like politics, it's obvious. Law school. So I went to law school where they read and write more than anybody with a first grade reading and writing level. Well, I had to force myself to learn to start to read very quickly. Then the second day of contracts, I was called on. What they do is, if you don't know the answer, they ask you questions until they just go after you really hard. If you don't know the answer, they keep asking you questions to embarrass you until you adapt.
Mm.
That didn't happen to me. I didn't respond as a student when I was called on. I responded as the professor's equal. Now, understand what that means. This guy was a professor for 5 years longer than I was alive.
Mm.
Okay. And he couldn't beat me. I couldn't beat him, and went on for 15 minutes. At the end, he threw up his arms. He said, Russell, you couldn't be any more correct. I have to move on to the next case. I learned to read within a month. I learned to write within a couple of years. And then I went back to the New York State Senate and I said, I want you to fund my dyslexic research so I can share what I learned, which they don't do. So it took years going through the New York State Education Department and various other state organizations, and finally I got the funding. Multi-year study. I want to let everybody know now, I cheated. I only worked with the most motivated, the most super intelligent dyslexic kids. That was it. I wanted to see what I could do with students that were like me. Juniors and seniors in high school, reading and writing at the middle school level, 1 class period a day. For the school year, they increased to the average range of entering graduate students in writing. They all went on to college. They all graduated, GPAs of 2.5 to 3.6, cost the state less than $900 a kid. We were 3 times more successful than the best dyslexic college at the time for less than 1% of the cost. And that's how I got started.
Wow. 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 Now, did you finish your law degree?
Oh, of course not. I was auditing. The whole point wasn't, I couldn't do legal research and writing.
Right.
I couldn't keep up. So I said, no, I just wanted to learn to read and write in law school. But the problem is when I presented this in 2006 in New York City, 2 things happened. First thing is the senior professor said, we don't care that some of your kids scored in the 70th percentile of entering grad students. We want the craft of research. I was like, the craft of what? The craft of research. It's a book that came out in 1995. It
Mm-hmm.
has sold over 1 million copies and is designed to teach PhD students to write their doctoral dissertations. It's about context, getting everybody on the same page, coming up with a unique problem statement, and then an innovative solution where the reader learns something. And I said, "You want me to teach dyslexic kids to do this in high school?" And they said, "Yes." I said, "Okay." And then the teachers came to me and said, "Does this work for normal kids?" I said, "No." And they said, "Come back when it does." 8 years
Mm-hmm.
later, I came back. So I had to do those two things. So what I'm going to show you now is I'm going to demonstrate, I'm going to give you an example of one of my students who's from a homeschooling mom and how she literally solved everything. All
Mm-hmm.
right. And I'm going to start off by showing parents the biggest pain point I always get caught with, which is their elementary school kids are writing randomly placed misspelled words. All
Yes.
right. So we're going to start off with there. But first of all, just so you know what dyslexia is. This is the top book on dyslexia. It's called Overcoming Dyslexia from Dr. Sally Shaywitz from Yale, second edition. Page 78, figure 23. That's dyslexia. Now,
Okay.
do you see how the back part of our brains have like no neural activity, just about?
Yes, it's very quiet back there. So if you are listening to this on the podcast, be sure and hop on the YouTube channel of the same name and you can see these pictures because this is fascinating.
Yes. So the back part of the dyslexic brain has next to nothing going on, but the back part of the gen ed brain is going crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the front part of our brain is about 2.5 times overactive.
Yes.
So here's the simple solution for dyslexia. Back part of the brain is essentially K through high school, where you have to
Mm-hmm.
pull that forward to the front part of the brain. The
Mm-hmm.
front part of the brain deals with word analysis followed by articulation. Okay, so what we're going to do is the first thing we're going to do is we're going to need an example of a dyslexic kid. Okay, would you like to use yourself as an example when you were in elementary school?
Sure. In elementary school, I was flipping words. I was leaving out words. Any small word like and, the, and all those types of things weren't there. I was flipping words. I was flipping B's and D's,
Mhm.
flipping sevens. You could see it in fourth grade. They sent work home, but nobody at that time really knew what to do about it. And then spelling was atrocious. Learning to spell, I couldn't, I was the phonics generation, couldn't sound it out, couldn't do that. By sixth grade, I was reading voraciously to try and keep up. And it wasn't that I read like normal people read word by word. I read in context. Not that I'm
Mhm.
a visual person, I'm an auditory person. The reading and the auditory and learning to read people are what made my academic career possible. Plus, both my parents were teachers.
Okay, that helps out a lot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to solve all of that in the next 10 minutes.
Brilliant. Where were you many, many years ago?
Well, number one, they knew what to do 100 years ago. The Gowell School started all this. They're celebrating their 100th anniversary this year. They knew. Where was I? I started doing this 25 years ago. All
Got it.
right. And then I was
Yeah.
working with high school kids who are super motivated, super intelligent. So let me explain how we're going to go ahead and do this. So how do you just so I know, how do you pronounce your name correctly?
Tanya.
Tanya. Okay. So Tanya, the first thing we're going to do is you need to tell me what your specialty was when you were in elementary school. Just one of them. That's your area of extreme interest and ability. What was it?
I was riding horses. I loved
Riding
horses.
horses. Okay. So what we're going to do is I want you to imagine you are teaching yourself.
Hmm.
All right. First thing you're going to do is you're going to open up a laptop computer with a real keyboard, not an iPad, not an iPhone, and certainly not handwriting. You're going to type out hero plus sign. What are we talking about? Then what we're going to do is we're going to swap out hero for Tanya. Tanya
Hmm.
plus sign. What are we talking about? Then we're going to go to a list of 10 things that you really, really like, and then 10 things you really, really dislike. All
Okay.
right. And then so we got hero plus sign. What are we talking about? We're going to swap out what are we talking about with horseback riding. So we got Tanya plus sign horseback riding. See how we got there?
Okay.
Now I'm going to try to fool you with two of the simplest questions ever. If you answer them exactly, this works. If it doesn't, you're going to have an epiphany in what dyslexia really is. Do you think I
Okay.
can fool you with two of the simplest questions ever?
You've been doing this a long time, so possibly.
Remember, but these are the simplest questions you will ever be asked.
Okay.
Okay, so just really try to answer them exactly. So here's my question. We got Tanya, plus sign, horseback riding.
Yes.
We have to replace the plus sign with a real word. Here's my question. Does Tanya like or dislike horseback riding?
Like.
You're one of the very few people that answered that correctly. Now I'm going to ask you the really hard question. What we're going to do is we need to put that word into the sentence and come up with the basic sentence. We're going to swap out plus sign for the words you just said. So what's the
Okay.
sentence?
Tanya likes horseback riding.
But that's not what I asked.
Oh gosh, what did you ask?
So let's go back. I asked, does Tanya like or dislike horseback riding? You said like.
Yes.
Then I said, okay, go ahead and put that word in the sentence. What's the sentence?
Tanya like horseback riding.
You got it the second time, you didn't the first time. What happened?
I self-corrected.
No, what happened is the first time you acted like you acted like a educated person. You automatically added the s to make it a proper sentence. But the
Yes.
second time you put the word in what you asked, which was like, you didn't automatically add the s because when you were in elementary school, you're dyslexic. You didn't know how to add the s.
Absolutely. I can tell you that. Absolutely. If you look at any of my writing, if you still look at my writing, how I got around it in college, I hired an editor. I wrote the paper, but I hired somebody to correct the grammar.
I understand, but the key thing here is you the first time you did you when you put the sentence together, you acted like a lot of gen ed parents did, educate. You automatically self-corrected. The dyslexic doesn't know how to add the S. So that's what we so what we have to do now is figure out how would we have taught you when you were in elementary school to add that S. Now, if you were rich, if your parents weren't teachers but investment bankers on Wall Street, they would have sent you to an Orton Gillingham school, which currently runs about 75,000 a year.
Mm.
Takes about 4 to 5 years for them to fix everything. Student to teacher ratio is 4 to 1 to 5 to 1. And what they would do is show you how to use multiple senses, seeing, touching, hearing, to get this to work. All
Mm-hmm.
right, that's what the wealthy still use. I'm going to show you what happens with modern science, which started in 2003. This is how crazy my field is. So we're going to now use the front part of the brain. I'm going to use a version of word analysis. So let's say you still had, I'm sorry, how do you pronounce your first name again?
Tanya.
Tanya. Okay. So Tanya, like horseback riding. So what I'd have you do is I'd say, Tanya, read what you wrote out loud, and does it sound generally correct? You would have said no, and it would have said, Tanya, fix it. Tanya likes horseback riding.
Mm-hmm.
We practice that with 10 likes and 10 dislikes. Now, do you see how that is a very simple form of word analysis?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Now we're going to go because reason one. Give me a simple reason why you liked horseback riding when you were a kid.
Mm, it was fun.
It was fun. Tanya likes horseback riding because it's fun. Now, do you see how we have a whole mess of misspelled words?
Yes, because it's really difficult to spell.
Oh, actually, no, it's not. Here's how you fix that. This is really simple. First thing we're going to have you do is we would have you, as the kid, you read that out loud, and does it sound generally correct? If it doesn't, fix it. And then what we'll have then is reasonably decent grammar. The horrific grammar mistakes are now gone, because teachers are really good at the little stuff and they're pretty good at the medium stuff. They have trouble with the horrendous grammar errors. That's now gone. Okay. And a lot of your medium ones are gone, and some of your little ones are gone because you made it sound correct. But here's the big secret until we get it to spell correctly. What we're going to tell you to do is drop the period. And if there's any misspelled words, you have to retype the entire sentence until it's spelled correctly.
Ouch.
Ouch. And this is what, now, parents will say, well, my kids won't do that. Well, first of all, I explain to the kids what's going on with the brain and they understand it and they're a lot more open to it. But if they don't like to do that, here's my evil way of getting them to do things. Remember that list of things they really, really dislike? When
Mm-hmm.
you think back to when you were a kid, I want you to tell me the one chore that you absolutely disliked doing, you absolutely hated doing.
Picking up and straightening up my room.
Picking up and straightening out your room. So if you don't want to do the retyping, what we would do typically is we would have a younger brother or sister go in, mess up your room on purpose with parents watching, and then you would have your little brother or sister order you around to get you to clean up your room.
Ew.
And then after you get done doing it, the parents would usually have the little one mess it up again, then order you around to clean it up again.
Oh my.
Okay.
Okay.
How many
That's a lot
times
of
do
work.
we need? Yeah, how many times do we need to do this until you decide you're going to do the sentences?
Yeah. Probably not too many.
Okay, that is yes. That parents tell me that is evil. The kids tell me that it's the most horrible thing anybody's ever done to them, and it works beautifully.
Mm.
All right. So now, as you retype that, every time you make the mistake, you're going to say, "I'm not going to make that mistake. I'm not going to make that mistake," and you keep making it until you don't. Usually
Mm-hmm.
3 to 13 times. Once you get that corrected, then we go down to the second one that you like, and we have you practice that. We have you do each level for all 20 sentences until they're spelled correctly. Then we go to reason one and reason two, 20 sentences spelled correctly. Reason one, reason two, and reason three spelled correctly. All right. Can you see how the reasons after because are a simple form of articulation?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now we've taken things from back here to up here to the front part of the
Mm-hmm.
brain where we have 2.5 times the neural activity. So now what's going on is that you are now writing reasonable grammar, spelled correct, three reason sentences. All right. Now,
Okay.
here's another little thing. If you can write a word, you can read it. If you can write it, you can read it.
I hadn't thought about that because I do it the other way around. I read
Exactly. You're
then
doing it
believe that I
in a
can write it. But that's not true. It was like me learning just recently, I had to learn to spell phenomenal. That's hard.
right.
And I did
But
it
if
by
you
repetition.
right, and that's what this is. But if you can write the word, you can read the word.
Huh. Huh.
Okay. Now, parents, now that's part three of the model. Parents wanted to know, well, what's the rest of it? Well, the first thing I'm going to tell you is I'm going to tell you my most extraordinary success case ever because the first part of the model
Mm.
is so important. I want everybody to know this is Casey. I never saw anything like this before, Casey. I will never see this again. This was a one off, never to be repeated. I met Casey at the end of fifth grade. She was 10 years old, turned 11 over the summertime. She's reading and writing at the second grade level. And Casey was interested in Theodore Roosevelt. So I assigned her this little book called The Rise of Theodore Roosevelt, all 900 pages of it.
This is a big book if you're watching this on YouTube.
This is a very big book. This is 10th grade, the first year college level. And Casey was 10, reading like and writing like a 7-year-old. So Casey insisted on doing reading first, which I never do. But I said, okay, here's the process. Work with your mom, 10, 15-minute sessions, a couple times a week. It's up to your mom. I'll see you next week. I didn't know Casey. She went up to her room, shut her door for 3 hours a night for 6 months, most of the days in summertime,
Wow.
going through that process. At the end of 6 months, she could read. You could open up this book, flip it to this random page, point to a word, and she would tell you the dictionary definition verbatim. She jumped 8 grade levels in 6 months, and I worked with her for 15 minutes a week.
Wow.
Yes, here's the issue. Then her mom wanted to know, is that just for books she likes? What if she's something she doesn't like? So I assigned her this little book, Walt
A
Disney,
Walt Disney.
Walt Disney, the Triumph of the American Imagination. All 1,000 pages of it.
Mm-hmm.
There are two universal themes that make up the Disney magic. First one anybody can find in 5 minutes. The second one takes my kids 1 to 3 years to find, because once they can, their reading is like they're 17.
Mm.
All right. Casey did it in 3 months. Why am I spending so much time on this? Because I asked Casey, when we went from something you really, really liked to something you disliked, how much did your motivation drop? She said about 50%.
Mm.
The
Mm-hmm.
most motivated kid I've ever worked with is down 50%.
Mm-hmm.
Typical students are down 75 to 90 once you step outside their speciality.
Mm-hmm.
So I want you to think, because you're not only dyslexic, but attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, we step outside your speciality, your motivation drops by how much when you were in school?
When I was in school or now? When I was in school, probably close to 70 to 80%. I mean, my college math class, it took me 2 semesters to prep out to pass algebra. And the only reason I passed was because the TA was really good and really patient.
Yeah. So you're 75, 80%. Okay. So what does this tell us? Most of the stuff we learn in school, we're outside that speciality. The motivation is down so much that during the intervention period, needing to get to grade level, we're outside of that. It's going to fail, or it's going to be wildly ineffective. Okay. So the key thing is during the intervention period, we have to focus on the kid's speciality, their area of extreme interest and ability. I get them a book they're interested in. I get them the accompanying audiobook. All right.
Mm,
That's
mhm.
number one. Number two, I'm going to ask you a question. And just, some people, time this freaks people out that I know so much about them. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
In your speciality, do you have ideas flying around your head at light speed? Key question, but with little to no organization.
Yes.
Okay. Now, when you're trying to type about something that you really care about, either now or most likely in the past, did you ever have it fingers, keyboard, fingers, keyboard? The idea is in your head, you take your fingers, you put them on the keyboard, then the idea flies out of your head, leaving you with an empty brain. Sound familiar?
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
Here's the third question. When you were in elementary school, were you ever threatened to be held back because you couldn't pass some academic task? Actually threatened to be held back a grade.
I don't I don't
It would be a very vivid memory if it happened.
No, I don't think so. The most
Okay.
vivid is I was an honor student, but in math I had to do basic level classes. So I wasn't even with kids that I knew existed in the high school
Okay.
because I was at the other end.
Okay. Did you find it kind of weird? I knew those the first two questions about you, especially the idea in your head. You put your fingers on the keyboard, it goes by, and you have an empty head.
Yeah, in a way it happens so journaling free flowing is easy, but if I'm like cuz I'd really like to write cozy murder mystery novels and I come up with plots all the time and I go to sit
Mhm.
down and I write them and I'm like, "What? What was that?"
Yeah, but you find it weird that I could tell you exactly what happened when we never met before.
Yes.
Okay, because that's what dyslexia is. That's from a practical point of view. That's what is, especially the first question. The idea is flying around your head at light speed, but with little to no organization. So,
Mhm.
what we need to do to fix things is we need to force your brain to organize by using
Mhm.
writing as a measurable output.
Mhm.
Okay. Now, if you answered yes to the first question and no to the second, that means you're most likely ADD, ADHD, or mildly dyslexic. If you answered yes to both questions, you could be ADD, ADHD, but you are almost certainly severely dyslexic.
Sounds about right.
I just saved parents $5,000 on a neuropsych exam.
Absolutely.
It's a ball. Those two questions give you the ballpark areas. But what we need to do again is going back to the first question. We need to force the brain to organize itself by using writing as a measurable output. Let me give you an example how that works in the real world. I want you to think back into high school. If you were asked this question, what effect did Martin Luther King's famous I Have a Dream speech have on the American Civil Rights Movement in the 1960s? Can you see how that'd be kind of hard to figure out compared to your classmates?
Yes.
Because I'm asking you a general question. There's nothing to latch onto. It's like us grabbing fog, nothing
Mhm.
there. But if I
Mhm.
asked you a specific question and then we went out, what personally compelled Martin Luther King to want to give his famous speech? We would go to his biography, find the answer. That answer would give us a question, which we would answer, which would give us a question, which we would answer. That would force the brain to organize itself by using writing as a measurable output.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
How how do deadlines play into this?
Well, let me finish up with the model, and then I'll come back and answer those. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So basically, do you see how doing it that way would make it a lot easier for us?
Because the generalization sends me off into the well, two categories, having been an academic for a long time of what are you really asking me and what do you really want so that I can make the grade for this? And then the other one is just this whole whirlwind of that could go in multiple different directions. Where do I even start?
Right. But we start off with that specific question. What compelled Martin Luther King to want to give his famous speech? We find that in, and then we can go out from there.
Yeah, that one I can handle. The first question, I'm kind of like, what are you really
Yeah,
asking me?
you can't handle the general to the specific, but you can handle the specific to the general.
Yes, I could go that way, but if you ask me the first one, I would be trying to outthink you and go, what are you really asking me without asking you the question? Because remember, I'm in
Right.
high school.
So remember, but so what we found. So here's what it is for the intervention period until you're at grade level. We start off with your speciality, your area of extreme interest and ability through a book and an audio book. We teach from the specific to the general, and then it's word analysis followed by articulation. Make sense?
Does.
Okay. Now, people want to know how successful this is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to tell you the next two examples are from Christian homeschooling moms. The Bible is very important for Sunday school for this. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So just letting everybody know ahead of time. First one, her name is Kimberly. I'm writing a book on her. It's just about to come out. Kimberly had some college. She's a very religious homeschooling mom. She successfully taught her son Reed, who's dyslexic, four brothers and sisters, to read properly. Not only to read properly, to read extraordinarily well using traditional methods. She failed miserably with him, felt a lot of shame, felt horrible, and she wanted to correct this. So we met on December 27th of 2024. She
Mm-hmm.
just spent $700 to have the state of Ohio test her kids, literally within the last 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Reed was in fifth grade, 10 years old, reading at the 11th percentile, writing at the fourth percentile.
Mm.
So I showed Kimberly, she worked with him for 3 sessions a week on average for a half an hour session, so about an hour and a half. Most parents do 10 to 15-minute sessions. I worked with her for half an hour a week for the rest of the school year for about 5.5, 6 months. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
telling you those results because over the summertime, Reed's friends came to him and said, Reed, we want you in public school with us socially. Lunch, classes, everything. So at the beginning of August, he was tested in a public school. Mom's miles away, much better data. If he tested the way he did in December, he would have been put in special education, away
Right.
from his friends. Unhappy kid, but he had an increase. His 11th percentile in reading jumped up to the 64th percentile.
Wow.
His fourth percentile writing jumped up to the 65th.
Wow.
His
Wow.
grammar went up to the 97th percentile.
Ah.
So Kimberly did what every parent dreams of. I asked her, "How is Reed doing now?" We're now well into the school year. This is February 2026. She said, "Well, he's getting mostly A's and B's, but in English class, he's not turning in his stuff on time, so he has a C plus.
Mm.
He's usually in the B range, but he has to get those assignments put in on time. But he's functioning okay in normal classes. The the Windward School in the Upper East Side of Manhattan has a 98% success rate. They take 4 to 5 years at 75,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
Kimberly did this in like, let's call it 8.5 months.
Wow.
Okay. She taught literally 7 times faster than the public schools could have done.
Mm-hmm.
She did it on her own.
Mm-hmm.
That's how powerful this is.
And it will change the kiddo's life. I can
Oh
tell you
yes,
from
because
experience.
yeah, because now what we're moving on to is parents will say, well, yeah, reads now in sixth grade. What about writing at the sixth grade high school level? Well, with that one, we're now showing Reed how to go ahead and do advanced high school paragraph writing when he's in sixth grade. And parents are like, what is that? I want you to think about this. And I'm just going to explain to you really quickly how this is done, the main parts of it. I want you to think about, I use universal themes. The best way to describe it is a movie review. So I
Mm.
want you to think about a movie that you've seen in your life that everybody has seen, that you think is one of the best movies at all time that you know intimately. What movie is that?
Probably Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings. Which one?
Let's start with the first one.
Okay, Fellowship of the Rings.
Yes.
Now I'm going to ask you something very difficult. First of all, just so everybody knows, how far did you go in your education?
I have a graduate degree.
Okay, master's, PhD.
I have a master's. Yeah.
Okay, master's degree. Okay, so you're one of the most educated people in the country as a percentile basis. Now I'm going to ask you something that's going to make you think. For Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Rings, I want you to reduce that movie to a one-word universal theme, that you think best represents it.
Pursuing the difficult
No,
so that,
one word.
oh, one word, not one sentence.
One word. Yes,
Triumph.
triumph. Okay, now, do you remember back when you probably were reading reviews about the Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Rings from Harvard educated or Ivy League educated movie reviewers? They said this happened, then this happened, then this happened. They pretty much ruined it for you.
Uh, okay. I didn't read reviews, but okay.
That's how what they generally do. Here, I could have a seventh grader do that. Here's how we do it, where it actually works. What you would do is you would take the universal theme of triumph, and you would list the major actors you wanted to discuss, and you would ask, how did they do with the universal theme of triumph? How did the director do with the universal theme of triumph? How did the screenwriter do? And then you would write your review that way. Then people could read and go and understand, oh, this is what you think of it. Now I want to see this movie or I don't. And if I want to see it, it's not ruined
Mm,
because you
mm-hmm,
wrote it like an adult.
mm-hmm,
Okay. So now, but here's the problem with that. Triumph is such a broad universal theme that you can discuss it in general, but you can't discuss it laser focused.
mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's the problem we need to address. So now I'm going to show you how we do an advanced body paragraph on the worst class for dyslexics, which is in English. So let's look at English in high school. I want you to think back to remember when you were doing Shakespeare. Any Shakespeare play had pretty much the following. You had a hero. The hero wanted to do something related to one or more universal themes. There was an ultimate villain who was a person or a concept or a combination there too. And the hero and the villain would have a conflict that started out in the first act, escalate steadily through the second act, and get resolved in the third act. Sound
Mm,
familiar?
mm-hmm.
Okay, so now we have to reduce that so it's something practical. So what we would do is, let's say instead of Shakespeare, we're just using the script of Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Rings, but we want to write on this as an adult and not some kid. All right. So what we would do is we would say there's a hero, and tell me we can take the obvious hero or one of the minor characters.
Let's
Usually
take
the minor,
Frodo.
yeah. Well, everybody does Frodo. Let's take a minor character who's important.
Aragon.
Aragon. Okay. So we'd have Aragon and we'd say, what does Aragon want to do? Now, I just showed you how to have the kids write out one sentence. Okay. So they go
Mm-hmm.
ahead and write out that one sentence. But now they could write a sentence. So you might do just what does the hero want to do in one sentence, or you might do it in multiple paragraphs.
Okay.
Whatever it is for each sentence, you're going to pick out the most important word. And then if there's lots of sentences, you're going to pick out a most important word for each one. And then you're going to pick out the most important word for the best most important word. Okay. That is going to be your base universal theme. Just like triumph, it's very broad. What we need to
Mm-hmm.
do is get something that's much, much more focused. So, how do we do that? First thing we're going to do is we're going to have you go and take that base universal theme to Merriam Webster's online dictionary. You're going to pick your definition. Then you're going to type out the word and type out the definition. All right. Now, I hear parents all the time, my kid won't do it. And you're right. If you're outside the speciality, as you said, you were
Mm.
down 75, 80%. So,
Yes.
what we're doing now is we're inside the speciality. And especially when you're an ADHD, good luck pulling you away from it. They will do it. So, you type out the word, you type out the definition. At some point, I don't know how many times you need to do that, 5 times, 10, whatever the number is, you're going to eventually know that definition. Because here's the key thing, the front part of the brain deals with word analysis first. Here's my question: how can you use word analysis if you don't know exactly what the word means?
It's
You,
almost impossible. You'd have to
you
know what the word
can't.
means. Yeah.
Right. So as you go through this process that I'm about to show you, within 3 to 9 months, you're going to have a vocabulary of hundreds of evolved words if you really push it. Okay. This is where I'm tying in how we teach reading to the overactive front part of the brain from Yale. This is critical. This is
Okay.
how I teach reading that actually works compared to all this other stuff. All
Mm.
right. So now you go ahead and you do that. Then what we need to do is find a word that best represents what's in your head. So you're going to go to thesaurus.com and you're going to pick, remember, you have to use dictionary. You can't, I'm sorry, you cannot use dictionary.com. You have to use Merriam Webster's online dictionary because it's much more evolved. And
Okay.
you cannot copy and paste. No copy and paste. You do that, you're wasting your time. You have to type it out. Okay.
Okay.
So now we go back, we put in our base universal theme, and we get a whole list of synonyms. You can take the top five, the top 10, the whole level, multiple levels. It's up to the student and teacher. Let's say you take the top five or top 10. For each word, you're going to take the word, you're going to type out the word, and you're going to type out the definition until you eventually know the word, which will happen at some point in the future. And then you're going to pick the definition that best represents what's in your head.
Mm.
Okay. Now that you've done that, now it may not be the best possible word, but it's a much better word. Now we can very much more laser focus on an optimum villain. Do you see how with a much more precise universal theme, we can use that as a much more focused lens.
Yes.
Okay. So then we can pick out the villain. I normally start off with people or a person, and then
Mm-hmm.
eventually move to concepts. But you're
Mm-hmm.
not you're not bound by that, but that usually helps. So we pick our ultimate villain. We have now our hero, our universal theme, and our ultimate villain. I separate them by plus signs. Ask the kid, does that sound generally correct? Of course not. Fill it in and fix it. So we've done
Mm-hmm.
that. Then you see how that's an evolved form of word analysis.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now you go because reason one, reason one, reason two, and reason three. Not just any reasons, the best reasons you can. Okay. So once so basically we do that from the hero to the universal theme. The three, we add because and the best three reasons you can. For each reason, we're going to reduce that to a simple universal theme because then when we go through the script, we're going to look at the beginning of the script and near the end of the script. We're looking for a one sentence from the script that deals with that universal theme. If
Got
it's a
it.
book, we go from the book, beginning of the book, the end of the book. We take those two sentences, remember, they're from the same universal themes, we put them together. Okay, now we have two sentences for our body paragraph.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to call that the data. Now, do you remember in grad school? I'm sorry, now that we have those two sentences, we are now going to form a topic sentence from those two quotes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, I want you to think back when you were in grad school. Remember how you had your topic sentence and then your data. The data could be quotes, it could be figures, it could be some form of data. Have you ever noticed that moving from your topic sentence to your data it didn't flow really as well as it should have.
I didn't analyze papers particularly well. So yes, that was a consistent issue.
Okay. I know I just want everybody to understand you have a master's degree.
I
And
do.
I'm about to ask you questions that almost nobody under a PhD candidate understands. Okay. And
Okay.
remember, I teach this to sixth graders.
Yes.
All right. Have you ever thought to correct the problem of going from your topic sentence to your data to make it flow better? Have you ever thought about applying a warrant to a body paragraph?
Applying a what to a body
A
paragraph?
warrant.
Like arresting it?
Yeah. Well, you know, in the English language, we have multiple definitions, multiple things for the same word. Yes. Have you ever thought about applying a warrant to a body paragraph?
No.
Okay. Well, I'm about to tell you. Remember, you have a master's degree. I'm about to tell you something that two people with a master's degree before knew about. Everybody else didn't know unless if they were a doctoral candidate or above. A warrant is a key part of the craft of research. It connects a topic sentence to the data by answering a how and why question.
Oh, huh.
Okay. Now, why am I spending so much time on this? Because once you do that, we have your topic sentence, you answer how and why question, and you connect that to the two quotes. Now, in our paid courses, we go into a lot more detail to go beyond that, but that's the basics. How important is this? I'm going to give an example of typically when I work with kids, they have older brothers and sisters who are not dyslexic who are fighting to become valedictorian. It happens all the time. So in
Mm-hmm.
this particular case, it was a 7-year-old boy who wished to remain anonymous. I'm just going to call him Bill.
Mm-hmm.
So Bill had an inferiority complex against his older brothers and sisters. And I said, we're going to fix that. And I'm going to be truly evil to your older brother. His older
Okay.
brother His older brother was a senior in high school who was an AP English, fighting to be valedictorian. So his writing is beautiful. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, beautiful. So I took a paragraph of his and I took a paragraph like I just showed you that Bill made, and I sent it off to a university professor. The
Mm.
university professor took the one his older brother did and just, yeah, I'm used to this. He's like, oh, the second one, the student used a warrant. This must be at the college level. This is technically more evolved.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when his Bill's older brother found out about it, he's like, I'm an AP English senior. My my kid brother who's dyslexic in seventh grade. What do you mean he's writing technically more evolved paragraphs than me? And he didn't like it. He kind of showed his dislike quite vehemently. And
Oh
I
no.
looked at Bill and I said, isn't that beautiful? Now, you want to talk about Bill's confidence just shooting through the moon. I said, Bill, that was a university professor. They're not, they don't give kick gloves.
Mm.
What your brother produced, they get that all day long. They're
Mm-hmm.
used to it, but they like the warrants a lot.
Mm.
Okay. Now, are you ready to move on to the next step, which is coming up with a problem statement that is actually worth solving and something you can actually do? That's when we start getting into really evolved stuff. But what I just showed you there was how to go from basic sentences to advanced body paragraphs. Now, just two more quick things. I am now working on two edge cases. Okay.
Mm.
The first one is a kid who is ADHD. His name is Miles.
Mm-hmm.
He's a college senior with a 3.22 GPA.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, he wants to go into a competitive, he has a degree in business. He has been properly educated. Okay, he
Mm-hmm.
can write, he knows how to do all that stuff, which a lot of college kids don't, but he's been properly educated. But his dad is concerned that he's not ready for the real world now with all this artificial intelligence stuff.
Yes.
So here's what I found out when I'm taking him through the area he wants to go into because he's getting a business degree. I created customized Harvard case studies,
Mm-hmm.
and he's going through those, and it's based on the craft of research. What is the context? What's the problem statement? What's the innovative solution
Mm.
in
Mm-hmm.
regards to what he wants to do? And what I'm finding is if you know, just from past students, if you know the craft of research, we do this properly in high school, which I've done with them, they come in, they may know nothing about AI, but within weeks at a company, they are not only using AI incredibly effectively, they're
Mm.
teaching their peers. They're simply going through, how do I do context with the AI? They're just working with until they figure it out. Then a unique problem statement that they can do, and then an innovative solution because they've been they knew it in high school, they practiced it in college for 4 to 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's how important. Because if you don't know how to use the advanced form of artificial intelligence, you're not going to be hired now. It's literally come down to being that simple. Another edge case, his name is Grayson. Grayson is not dyslexic in the least. He is in the 99th percentile in math and science. He's 10
Wow.
years old in fifth grade. And Grayson is literally a genius of geniuses. He wants to get his PhD and work at NASA to terraform Mars.
Wow.
So I created something custom. Grayson's dad, who's another podcaster, is walking him through all of this, through those sentences to advanced body paragraphs. He's flying through it. But then I'm going to show Grayson how to do a problem statement and an innovative solution. But with him, if he wants to work at NASA, he has to publish in a peer-reviewed journal.
Mm.
So for our most advanced cases, I found a peer-reviewed journal that would be great for him to publish in. They will take junior researchers, graduate students in their view. Grayson's 10. So we are going to show him how to go through the full craft of research and to come up with. I found a very specific whole for him to write on, and we're going to show him how to submit a peer-reviewed journal article. It will be rejected. We're going to get him as to as best it can be. When it's rejected, because they always are, even if you're senior professor, rejected most times for little things, there'll be a list of things that needs to be corrected. Then we're going to introduce Grayson to a senior professor in that area, and he'll probably be 13 or 14 at that point, and say, "Well, I want to get this published. This is what I can't do. These are the problems I have. Would you mind helping me to get this published?"
Mm-hmm.
And then watching the professor's jaw drop because he'll be a decade ahead of anybody. So if your parents out there and you have kids who are wannabe valedictorians, they think, they're going to be class president, captain of this sports team, do community service. Here's what the admissions office says. Oh, we get that already.
Mm-hmm.
You submit something for publication, it's rejected, and you have a laundry list of things that need to get done. Well, guess what? That's what you get to work on, and that'll get the senior professor's attention. If you want to think that they might have some influence on who gets accepted in college,
Mm-hmm.
they're the ones bringing in all the research money. Their opinions matter a lot.
Yes. Russell, let's go back to what parents can do for their kids right now and what you and your associates have created and where folks can find it.
All right. We literally just launched our first program on a learning platform called School. We're testing it out, and just so you know what that's going to look like. Parents, we're showing you how to teach your kids
Mm-hmm.
because the tutoring bills are just killing you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Most parents do 10 to 15 minutes a night. But unlike anybody else in this space, Angela is going to be teaching. She's going to have a 60 to 90-minute webinar each week to answer your questions. What
Mm-hmm.
qualifies Angela to do this? She is a certified elementary school teacher with a master's degree in the state of Texas. She has over
Mm-hmm.
a decade of experience. And then when her daughter was born, she became a home mom. She
Mm-hmm.
has taught her son, August, who was born in August, how to go through this process herself. So she's been there. So she's not only a certified teacher, she's also a homeschooling mom who's been there. Pricing, nobody offers anything like this for under $500 a month, which most families can't afford. So we priced
Right.
it at $147 a month.
Mm-hmm.
And as I said, you can stay with us for as long as you would like. We literally take parents and walk them through how to teach their kids to submit a PhD, to submit a peer-reviewed journal article.
Wow.
All right, that's typically where we end. If your kid is a head and hands kid who probably is going on to community college to become an auto mechanic, an electrician, be it what it may, the trades. Usually getting through the advanced body paragraph is all you really need.
Mm-hmm.
So that's about 3 courses. So we're just launching that. If you have anything specific, you can go to dyslexiaclasses.com. That's with an S, Dyslexia Classes. There's a button there. If you hit that, you can answer 3 questions, get a report that goes over what we discussed today, set up an appointment to speak with me for a half an hour. It doesn't cost anything. I discuss things with your kid, find out. I ask those 2 questions, find
Mm-hmm.
out their what they're interested in, their speciality, which most parents can't believe what it actually is. Um,
Okay.
I had one kid literally he was a 8th grader. He liked a video for college students, a chemistry video, and I'm not joking, how to turn paint thinner into cherry soda.
Okay.
That's what
Well,
that's
there you
what we
go.
worked on. Okay,
Yeah. Well,
he
if
was
that
laser
works, let's
focused.
do it. Yeah.
Yes, but you have to set up a time to actually talk to me with that. So that's the best way of doing that.
Awesome. And then is it launched on, so school is spelled SKOOL, thanks Alex Hormozy. And it's not launched yet on school.
No, it's up now.
Okay.
We literally just launched it an hour ago. It's under Dyslexia Classes.
Dyslexia Classes is what you would look,
Yes,
because school's huge. School is just a
yes,
platform. And it's
yes,
huge,
and
and you can look for it there.
yeah. And why did we put it there? Because this is the genius of Hermosi. Now he didn't found school; he invested in it.
Mm,
But what they did is it's a traditional learning platform with a community like Facebook, but with no ads attached to it organically. So it's the community is very important.
mm, mm-hmm.
So you can ask questions as we're moving things through, and we're just spending so much time adding more courses, adding more content. But remember, you ask a question, we can get right back to you. You can have other parents who've been through this. I'm going to have Kimberly answering questions on it, and Angela doing it. And they brought their kids through this successfully. They're homeschooling moms, and more importantly,
Fantastic.
they are Christian homeschooling moms. A
Right.
big part of what we were doing was the inability for their kids to read the Bible in Sunday school. Now
Mm.
they can.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Russell, we're going to have you back on and hear more about the success that's going on through school. And I really appreciate you being here today and all the struggle you've had to go through to get where you are. It was not simple.
It only took me 25 years. Now, remember that point where I told you how retyping the word and the definition, how that deals with word analysis?
Right?
I connected that right to Yale research. You now know how to better teach dyslexics to read than senior professors in your area.
Absolutely. Russell, I can't thank you enough for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for tuning into the Faith Over Addiction podcast. Remember, nothing changes until something changes. Today is your day to step out in faith and make a difference. You are a daughter of the King, a woman who can spark incredible ripple effects of hope and healing, not just in your own life, but in your family, your community, and God's kingdom. If this episode encouraged you, bless someone else by sharing it. Send it to a friend who needs a little hope, or post it on Instagram and tag me. I'd love to hear what resonated most with you. And hey, if you're ready to reclaim your God-given identity and create a safe, loving space for yourself and those you care about, let's talk. Book a quick call with me today, and I'd love to hear your story and help you take the next step. Oh, and don't forget to head over to Apple Podcasts, search for Faith Over Addiction, and leave me a review. Your feedback not only makes my day, but helps other women find this podcast and step into freedom too. You are strong, you are loved, and the joy of the Lord is your strength. Nehemiah 8:10. Until next time, keep walking boldly into the life God has for you.